What is up, guys? Dustin Yewy here, and I just finished watching the EA Sports NHL 13 live stream. I did miss 10 to 15 minutes of the beginning because I was at work, but I don't think I missed too much. I'm assuming they just kind of did introductions and whatnot. But I'm gonna talk about a little bit, like I'm gonna kind of give a recap of what they talked about, and then I'll go through the Q&A, just the general areas. So the first thing I saw that they were talking about, the new speed burst and the new, like, how the new skating works out. So basically, yeah, you like hold or you hit the L3, and your guy kind of does a crazy explosive skate, and it actually looks pretty good. Sorry, I'm losing my voice here. And it's almost pretty much like real life, how someone would try and skate their hardest, because you don't really stick handle, right? So it kind of looks more like you're poking the puck, almost. Almost like the way we would in, how we do it currently in NHL 12, how you just kind of hit the L2 button and your guy just kind of pokes it ahead. Except it seems like in this one, like, you kind of have a bit more control. Like your guy kind of still has his stick on the puck while you're not like, you don't hold it beside you, like, kind of like stick handling, but it's like kind of like a push in front, but you still have somewhat control. So it looked actually pretty good. It looks pretty fluent. And the big thing out of that is trying to get to your top end speed. Now this is basically what they're trying to accomplish with true performance skating, was the whole top end speed, because like they talked about in NHL 12, basically, unless, like, obviously some people stack stats and whatnot in online, but mostly in general, all the players kind of had the same top end speed. Whereas in real life, players like Marian Gaborik, Steven Stamkos, Sidney Crosby, they are much faster. They have quicker feet, and they're a lot quicker than, say your fourth line grinder. So yeah, it looks like it's a lot faster. But at the same time, you don't have as much control, which is, it kind of balances it out. So yeah, it's much faster. And then yeah, they talked about how, like, the forwards and the defense were kind of the same speed. You didn't really have to play defense as hard. There wasn't much like gap control and whatnot, because basically you could skate backwards as fast as people were skating forwards. Which, yeah, basically was the case. So to go with that, they went on to basically momentum with the new skating. So with this momentum, basically you have to, like, if you're a defense now, it's kind of like when your guys go, it's kind of like real life. Like before in NHL 12, if you're a defenseman, you kind of got out of track, you could easily just quick turn, and you're, basically pretty much catching the guy already. But in this one, they use momentum better, and it looks a lot more realistic. So basically, if, say, you go to pinch, I'm just going to use a defensive example. Say you're going to pinch with your defenseman, and you miss. I mean, you can't just turn on a dime and get back into the play. You're kind of like, you're kind of out of the play a little bit, and you have to try and get back. So at that, like, if you miss a guy and the guy decides he wants to do his top end speed, the speed burst kind of thing, basically it's almost impossible to catch him, just because you've put yourself out of position, and he's going so much faster than you. So it's not easy to get back, and I think it's going to play a bigger role in online, because you're going to have to learn how to do gap control as a defenseman, in, like, online and EASHL, and just in general. in the game. So the next thing they touched on was control versus speed. Basically, with this control versus speed, they touched on how you could do your top end speed in NHL 12, and you could basically, cut 90 degrees, and there was no consequences at all. Which obviously we get into the whole figure skaters online and stuff. So in NHL 13, they're trying to make more of an effort to kind of eliminate that with more of a realistic take. So when you're at your top speed, you're doing your top end speed. You got your speed burst. You're flying down the wing or whatever. They've made it so. I think, like I've touched on it before in another news video. When you try and turn, if you're trying to turn too sharply, your controller will vibrate. And in the example they showed, it was Steven Stamkos, and like they were just doing 1v1 kind of drills, but basically in the replay, he cut, like they showed it at NHL 12 where he cut 90 degrees and like no problem. NHL 13 he tried to drive, like cut to the net, and his guy took a wide turn, like, and he was, and you could tell like his skate was digging in the ice. You could see snow coming up a little bit, and it looked a lot more realistic, and like he could not turn perfect like 90 degrees. He had to do a giant kind of, I guess, not loop, but like a big turn to try and drive the net. And he, as even Stamkos, he almost didn't make to the front of the net. He did, but it was a lot more realistic. So with this, they're claiming that there's going to be like physics and obviously the momentum into it, as well. Like there's going to be a giant balance thing. So as a defenseman, if a guy's trying to cut to the net hard, and he's trying to do top speed or whatever, obviously he's not going to have great balance, and you're going to be able to hit him easier, and even like your guy can wipe out and fly into the the back of the boards. So it does look pretty solid so far in terms of the control versus speed aspect. Next up, they talked about creativity, and basically with this, excuse me, with the new skating system they added in, where you actually have to hold the left trigger to actually go like skate backwards, but they've made it so you can actually, as a forward, you can you can basically go into a backward skate whenever you want. You can pivot on the ice with the puck and whatnot. Obviously you can lose the puck and whatnot due to the control aspect, but like better players, you can, like, I think it's going to be almost possible to do like a Datsuk move on a penalty shot and stuff, and it looks really good. So yeah, they talked about that. They kind of did a little showing with Steven Stamkos doing circles in the offensive zone, and he was like facing the end boards the entire time, just because he was able to pivot and stuff, because Rammer kept hitting the left trigger, or holding the left trigger when he wanted him to go backwards. It actually looked pretty good. So yeah, that was pretty much it on the whole skating aspect. So yeah, they talked about how the explosiveness is. It looks really good. Top end, like with the top end speed. The momentum looks pretty solid. I hope that it works out. The control for his speed was pretty good, and the creativity, I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see what you can do with this new kind of creativity, and being able to skate backwards and stuff. And as well, one of my biggest concerns when I saw the actual unveil trailer was the fact that when the guys are skating, there was snow everywhere. But in the actual demo that they showed, it looked pretty good. Like, there was a little bit of snow when there had to be. Like, it wasn't outrageous or anything. So it did look good. I wonder if they cut it back. Like, I'm not sure. Next up, they talked about the new AI with EA Hockey IQ, and they just kind of showed a couple examples of stuff. So they broke it down into 3 categories: players, goalies, and team systems. And when they went into players, like they didn't do too much depth. Obviously, like they're probably gonna like release a bit more later on and whatnot. But so to go with players, they just kind of showed an example, NHL 12, how if you had like a, I guess like let's say a 2-on-2 or whatever. So you had the two defense, you had the guy, the one forward in the middle of the ice, and he would just attack the puck carrier and put himself basically out of commission by, just kind of skating right by the player who had the puck when you're trying to get out of the zone. And with that, obviously there was always odd man rushes all the time. But then when they talked about how the players are aware of all the players on the ice. So pretty much they all know who to pick up, kind of. They kind of pick up the loose man. And it looked a lot better than this year's AI. So hopefully it does pull through, and then the next thing they talked about was goalies. And they said there was two parts to the goalies. The first part was obviously they're aware of all the players on the ice. They showed a a clip of Luongo, how he cheated, and I think it was a 5-on-3 for LA against Vancouver. And basically the Vancouver Canucks had two players up on the defense and then one guy in the middle. So LA had two guys on either side of Luongo and one guy in front of the net. And basically Luongo cheated a little bit to the left side. He cheated to because the pass went down into the left corner. So he cheated for basically a cross crease one-timer kind of thing. And he cheated with his one leg, and the guy ended up just banking it 5-hole and going in. So the big thing with this is they talked about how in NHL 12 basically the goalie was always focused on the puck, which allowed for cross creases, which are very frustrating, obviously. But in NHL 13, there's going to be more, goalies are going to be aware of other players on the ice, so they're going to be able to cheat a little bit. Obviously, it doesn't always work out, but sometimes it does. And yeah, it looked pretty solid. And then the second part they talked about was how the goalies adjust after the shot. So yeah, in 12 again, they were fully committed to the puck carrier and trying to make the save on the guy who had the puck, just because that's how the goalie AI was. But in 13, they actually they anticipate how the puck's going to get shot and stuff. You're going to see diving saves. Obviously, there's going to be individual limb movement, and the example they showed was like a 2-on-0 on Jimmy Howard with Datsuk, and I forget who the other player was. It might have been Filppula. But they skated by the D, and it was obviously just practice mode or whatever. Datsuk, they were both pretty wide, about where the kind of the dots are on the blue line. So they're about pretty wide. So Datsuk passed it over, and they did kind of a one-timer. And Jimmy Howard was cheating a little bit, obviously, but he made a huge diving save, and he stuck his stick out and just smacked the puck out of the air, and it looked really awesome. It was a real-time example. So yeah, there's going to be a lot more unique saves. They said that you can goalies will jump across and try and make the save with the paddle and whatnot, and it looked pretty sweet. And then they didn't really touch on team systems, but they said that there's going to be 5 times more team systems than there has in any other game. As I've talked about kind of before, each NHL team is going to have their own system and play style and each line and whatnot. But they didn't go into too much depth on that, which kind of sucked. But from what I've read, and talked about already, it's going to be pretty solid. And one more thing that I thought was super important that they said, the GM guy Dean said, this year the team has spent more time on the AI than their basically past 3 years combined. So we'll see if that stays true. So that was basically all they touched on their presentation was the new skating and the hockey IQ, and then they did a Q&A. So I'll talk about the Q&A. So the first kind of question was about the whole speed and explosiveness and how that was going to work with the AI and whatnot, and defensemen. And Rammer talked about again how in NHL 12 everyone was kind of the same speed. It was very easy. You didn't really have to close the gap or anything. But yeah, in 13 you're gonna have to really look at mismatches. Apparently, well, I'm not saying just I usually talk about online aspects just because that's what I'm more into. But for example, say you're just playing GM mode or you're just playing a game offline or whatever. So basically, you're gonna want to look for mismatches to try and beat the D a lot better. And obviously with the momentum, so if the D steps up, you can kind of sidestep around him and stuff. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of mismatches. You're going to want to try and face up against fatigued players and whatnot. The next was about the presentation aspect a little bit and the cutscenes. And basically this year, I've kind of touched on it again, I think last video, the news video, sorry. And every cutscene in the game is going to be kind of AI driven. So it's going to be more realistic, like a real life actual hockey game. So in between whistles, you'll see guys skating around, going to the bench and whatnot. It's going to be more realistic, like an actual hockey game broadcast. You'll see guys skating to the dot and whatnot. But they're going to have different angles, like actual broadcast angles and stuff. So that sounds pretty promising. So it's not going to be the same, the same stupid cutscenes we've seen for the last 5 years, hopefully. Another question was about game face being integrated, and basically Rammer avoided the question entirely, and said that they were more focused on gameplay, which I completely agree with. But you never know. I don't think game face would be that hard to implement, so it might come out more so towards the end. But again, they're working on gameplay. I'm completely happy with that. I'd rather them fix the game than anything. Another question was about glitch goals, and Rammer talked about basically how they wanted this year to make the goalies as perfect as possible. They're going to be flexible, versatile. I almost made that one word, flexitile. So anyways, yeah, they really wanted to make the goalies as perfect as possible to avoid the glitch goals, and that's the whole thing with the individual limb movements, diving saves, the cheating for cross creases and whatnot. So hopefully this comes through. It looked pretty good. And then another question was about playing goalie, club goalies and whatnot, drop-in goalies. Basically, with all the new animations and stuff, they're kind of working out how it's going to work. And then they said that they were going to take feedback in from the people who played and stuff today. Another about new goal celebrations. There's not going to be any new goal celebrations, he said. Again, they're focused on gameplay. This was actually kind of cool. They talked about GM Connected a little bit. So yeah, it's going to be an online dynasty. You can play up to 30 players online, like a whole thing. But one of the neat things well, there's two neat things. First of all, if you're not really a guy who's super into playing the game itself, and you be a GM and whatnot, and actually managing the team, you can actually invite 6 of your buddies to OTP for your games. So you can invite 20 guys, 6 players, basically, kind of like club, it'd be like a drop-in or a club game, and your buddies can basically play your team for you, which is kind of cool. And again, with that, if you don't like playing whatnot, you can customize the AI for your team somehow. Now, I don't know how that's going to work exactly, if it's going to be just the lines or each player, but he said that you can customize your play style or how you want your team to play. for you, so you don't actually always have to play the games. There's another question about dangles, so deeks and stuff. They're working on balancing it right now, he said, with how the whole like new skating system works. Like they want to make it so like more top end players can do more deking and stuff while skating, and it'll be more fluent as opposed to like a fourth liner. Fighting, there's no change coming to fighting at all. Apparently, another question was about trade logic. They said apparently it's going to be a lot better. That's really all they said. Top end speed, they're like we talked about. I already talked about it, but apparently they're going to take feedback from the players at the community event. But they're not exactly worked out on how like the whole speed burst and stuff is going to work out. They're just kind of testing it. They have a couple different styles. Like I talked about the one they showed with Stamkos, where he kind of used one hand and kind of moved the puck around. But they said they've kind of fooled around with it, and there's like some like with two hands on your stick, great like kind of stick handling. And yeah, there's no kicking out of the face-off at all. Basically, it slows down gameplay, he said. Alright, and the last thing was a question about the goalie bubble. Now, this kind of, grinds my gears. But basically, the whole reason behind the goalie bubble was to help control exploits. Just because they didn't want people, running into the goalies or the goalie getting hit and stuff and like scoring goals every time. Now I don't know, but anyways, he said they're working on removing the goalie bubble. So like if you really want to just run the goalie, you can now. But again, it's like a work in progress. So I mean, they still have quite a few months before the game actually comes out. But yeah, that was basically the whole presentation. From what I watched, obviously I missed like 10 to 15 minutes. But yeah, it looked pretty good. So I think it's going to be a pretty solid game. Yeah, I don't know. Leave comments below, and please rate the video. That would be awesome. I'd like to know if you guys like these news videos or not. So input is really appreciated. If you guys actually did watch the live stream, please do comment below though, and leave your thoughts. That'd be good. Other than that, that's about it, guys. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more NHL 13 news.